I'll fill it.
Hi, Steph. How you feeling?
Good evening, everyone. I think we're live. Welcome to the Tuesday, May 24th Board of Selectmen's meeting. I have had a COVID exposure, so out of an abundance of caution, I will be wearing a mask. Just bear with me in this. And Steph needs to be remote this evening, so we will be taking all roll call votes tonight. So why don't we start with the Pledge of Allegiance? If Dennis, if you could lead us, and then we'll move into citizens input.
I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so up first, we have Arthur Muldoon. Arthur, if you're comfortable at the podium or the seat.
Right here.
Okay, great.
Good evening. I'd like to say a couple of words about a good friend of myself and for, is it going through?
There you go.
Oh, all right. Good evening. I just want to say a couple of words for a good friend of mine and a good friend of the town, Dick Haydecker. I'd like to start with the Irish prayer. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. And may the sun shine warm on Dick Haydecker. Dick was born, he was a Depression kid, and he grew up in Manhattan, New York City, upper Manhattan. Went to school locally. Then as he grew older, he ended up at Columbia, Cooper's Union, and the Harvard Design course as a PG, postgraduate. He got his big degree from Cooper Union. He got a BA in architecture, and he started with a firm in New York, and he was he was working on the original design of the World Trade, and it was taken away from the company that he was working for and was given to the New York, New Jersey Port Authority, and they scrapped the original and did what they did. Then he must have moved to the Boston area, went to work for KLQ, a company that dealt in schools. He considered the company the biggest school designer while he worked at the trade. He married Pat. They had 3 children. And then he must have relocated here in Foxboro because he ran for a school committee and got in for 9 years. Then in the 60s, he got on the permanent building committee, and he lasted up till the day that he passed away. So he had a long and good career. He had a disposition as a New Yorker. Some like it, some don't like it. I'm half New York. So half and half, it works. The other things is that I thought that he would be almost somebody that we could point at that did an awful lot of work for the town. He had been with the permanent building for maybe over 50 years, which is, he had longevity. And I remember the times that he would go to the meeting of the town manager. I think Bill remembers some of the jousting that went back and forth. Good humor. And the other thing is that I went to the wake last night across the street, and I asked the children if I could make a humorous remark, and they said, sure, you're going to do it anyways. I didn't meet them, it was only the first time, but they said that was my reputation. And it was that when Dick got to the pearly gates, Peter said, what's your name, rank, and serial number? And Dick gave it to him, because he had been in the Army for a couple of years during the Korean conflict. And Peter opened up the ledger. He looked, and he said, oh, you've done well. And, by the way, when that bricklayer guy gets here, he's going to do a job for me. And he recommended that maybe that I would lay the brick and Dick would count them. And that he felt that Dick was qualified to be the coffee boy in the job. So we got a few laughs out of that. And I hope I haven't left anything out. But until we meet again, may God keep you in the palm of his hand. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, and thank you to Mr. Haydecker for all of his service, decades to the town as well. All right, anyone else for citizens input? No. All right, so with that, I think we will move on to the Memorial Day Parade.
It's me.
That's you. Come on up, tell us who you are for those who don't know, although I'm not sure there's anyone, and tell us a little bit about what you have going on.
Yeah, I am Allie Rodriguez. I'm the director of the Veteran Services Division here in the town of Foxboro. And I'm very excited because for the first time since 2019, we are bringing back the Memorial Day Parade and ceremony with a wreath-laying ceremony and a bagpiper, the high school band, the honor guard from the police department, the fire department, the VFW, some special guests. Our guest speaker will be Colonel Jason Oberton, who worked for the TAG, the Adjutant General of Massachusetts. And this guy is incredible. I'm so excited to hear him speak. So I'm just so excited that finally COVID is like a little a ways and we're able to do this, because like I live for this job. Like I love putting stuff on for the town. So Memorial Day and Veterans Day are my events. And everybody in Foxboro should have received a postcard with details. And if they haven't, the parade starts at 10 o'clock. It will kick off from the Church of the Emmanuel. We'll take a right onto Central Street and we'll just go straight up. We'll circle the common, and then at the foot of the common there'll be a tent there, and that's where the ceremony will take place. It shouldn't be very long. Kick off at 10. We're hoping to be done by 11:30, and then everybody can join us at the VFW for some lunch.
Wonderful. So glad the event's back. It sounds
Me
wonderful.
too. Any questions?
Any questions? I did point out that the parade does go counterclockwise around the common, something a little different, but my father-in-law confirmed that did used to happen back in the day.
See? Yeah, I know, it's kind of... Yeah, we're going to, because I do everything backwards, so we're going to go the other way. Yeah.
Actually, it's clockwise. You're going all clockwise.
So I'm going the right way. It's traffic goes
Right,
the
right.
opposite way, yeah. Yeah. So I look forward to seeing everyone there. Happy birthday to your daughter.
Oh, thank you, yes.
Very
I will not
excited
be
for
there.
her.
We're away for my daughter's birthday that day, so.
Yeah, that's fun.
And then we'll see if Steph's going to be here. Doc said he'll be around. I'm not sure if the rest of you guys are around and planning to go. but- Okay,
Oh,
great.
good. Yeah. If there are no more questions.
No questions.
Yeah.
Just excited, with excitement.
Me too. Very excited. This is the week where I don't sleep, so if you see the bags under my eyes, just ignore them. I'll go back to normal on Tuesday.
Yeah, right, you look great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go. Thanks, Allie.
All right, and following right up with that is Marc from Human Services.
Leah, there's a motion, you need to approve.
Oh, I'm
the
sorry,
use of
right.
public way.
Geez, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Poor Dennis's first motion, and here I go.
Yeah, no, I was ready.
Complicating things, okay, sorry.
Okay.
You can just go ahead and read it.
Motion to approve a town property and use of public way application for the May 30th Memorial Day Parade and Ceremony.
Second.
All those in favor?
Roll call vote.
Mark, yes.
Oh, right.
Mark, yes. Roll call.
Yes, that's right.
Leah, yes.
Seth, yes.
Okay, so when someone is remote, everyone has to do a roll call. So since Stephanie's remote, we'll be doing a roll call for every vote this evening. All right, so with that, now we're really all set. Sorry.
Thank you.
It was a test, Dennis.
It was.
You pass with flying colors.
Agreed.
All right, so we have Marc up here with his department for your department update.
Hello. Greetings. So for those who don't know me at home, my name is Marc Craig. I'm the Director of Human Services. This is the first time I'm presenting to you as a reorganized Department of Human Services with Allie and Renee here. So I kind of want to just go through the last year for the Senior Center. Renee is going to talk about the Recreation Department. I know Allie's kind of already addressed you a few months ago, but kind of maybe just a couple of quick little things right towards the end. So first, I want to kind of explain to people, obviously it's a new reorganization that has been over the last few weeks. So you can see the Human Services Department is comprised of the Council on Aging and Human Services Division, the Recreation Division, as well as the Veterans Division. So all told, we're a little over 14 full-time employees. And then once you start counting in the seasonal summertime people, balloon to a much larger organization. But together, the three of us have been much smaller departments for the last many, many years. So combined, we've really kind of found our groove very quickly. And so I'd love to kind of walk you through early successes and the things that we've been doing over the last few months. So I'm going to start off with the Foxboro Council on Aging and Human Services. So the Council on Aging and Human Services is located at the Senior Center. So it's 75 Central Street for those who have never been there. Hopefully, if you are over the age of 60, hopefully you decide to come out for programs, or if you are in need, you meet with one of our Human Services social workers. So I'm going to kind of talk about the services offered down there. So we have a lot of senior programs, and I truly mean a lot of senior programs. Through COVID, we were able to reopen very quickly. So actually, it was the last time I talked to you was right after we reopened. We were able to reopen very quickly with really great procedures that kept everyone safe. And knocking on wood, almost 2.5 years in, we've had absolutely zero community spread from the procedures that we've had, keeping people apart, sanitizer, masks for the vast majority of that time, the vaccination clinics through the Foxboro Fire Department, boosters through the Foxboro Fire Department. We've been able to maintain a very safe environment. We've also had a lot of people come in for programs and a lot of new people that have sort of realized that through COVID, they didn't want to remain in their homes, isolated. The people for the first year, they were completely isolated. They decided that this is their time to live. They wanted to actually join in things. They wanted to get healthier, and the Foxboro Senior Center was the perfect place to do that. We have yoga classes, exercise classes, mental health classes, and it's something where if anyone in the community, if you ever notice, we have a Foxboro Gem that is our monthly guide of upcoming programs. Every single month that changes, so if someone doesn't like the programs in June, July, there's a whole bunch of new programs. Typically, I add 20 to 25 new programs every single month. I won't bore you by going through all of them, but if anyone at home is interested, they can always pick up a gem at Stop and Shop. There's some of the barber shops, nail salons, obviously here, the Senior Center, the library, and we also do a weekly gem through email blast too, and obviously we have a presence on Facebook as well. We also have Human Services. So Foxboro is a little unique where 20 years ago there was two separate departments, which Council on Aging and Human Services, and 20 years ago they came together to form one department. Our Human Services, we do have two full-time social workers who are unbelievable, Pam McGuire and Kate Finieri. Kate is new. She's been here for about 4 months now. And Pam has been here for, I think, 12-plus years at this point. Again, Foxborough is unique. We have 2 full-time social workers, and the social workers really get to connect residents with resources. If there's a troubling time in their lives, anyone over the age of 18, they can come and meet with one of our social workers to get access to resources, either through a helping hand, friendly resource, or even just kind of a guiding of the process. Obviously, the last year we had a lot of issues with COVID. We also had the fire on Central Street, where our social workers really jumped in. We were able to help people get housing, and over several months be able to get resources, get housing, and then also help with the application to get into housing, because it's a very complicated situation. So that's what our social workers are great at. Average daily attendance, I love data. I love data very much, so I kind of keep track all the time of what we look like. You can sort of see that in 2019 we were really spiking in our programs. 2020 started out really, really strong, then COVID happened. And you can see over the last year and a half or so, we've been kind of up and down, and I didn't do it here, but if you actually if you look at the months below and track when COVID was high, our numbers were low. And when COVID was low, our numbers were high. So we're actually exceeding 2018's numbers now, which obviously exceeded the previous 20 years. So I'm very happy about that. People are coming back. People are excited to get out and be engaged in all sorts of new programs. So this past weekend, we actually held our first open house. This is paid for by a Mass Councils on Aging grant to be the talk of the town. I was able to receive $8,000 this year to be the talk of the town. So we sent this postcard out that went out to every single resident in town, and on the backside was information about Memorial Day Parade as well as the pool. So we try to use our reorganization structure to utilize funds from a grant to get out into the entire community. We had a lot of people come in the door of the open house. And a lot of guys, which is the rarity down at the senior center. I only guess is because guys were physically invited. They said, well, now I feel comfortable going. So we also had a lot of younger people who were kind of realizing that it was on a Saturday. They wanted to try this out. We do have programs later into Wednesday evenings. So if someone is working, they can come, but maybe they didn't feel comfortable walking through the door, just joining a random program on a Wednesday. So we had a lot of people come in for the first time. We were able to present them with welcome packets that had information about the senior center as well as veteran services and recreation too. Another thing I really want to touch on is take a little bit of time for publicity. We have our Senior Olympics. We did this in 2019 and we're bringing it back. So it's a week-long event, the 13th to the 23rd. We have events throughout the community. We're doing a half-mile walk, a 1-mile walk, and a 2-mile walk. The 2-mile walk is actually on the field at Gillette Stadium. So if there's anyone at home who says, I really don't want to do it, but they really want to get for a walk out in the stadium field, you're welcome to sign up. It's $5. You get a T-shirt, and that's sponsored by the Friends of the Foxboro Seniors. So there's a lot of cost behind that of getting everyone medals, but it's for anyone over the age of 60, and it's age category, 60 to 69, 70 to 79, 80 plus. So if you're 82, you're not competing against a 60-year-old.
And are signups still open for that?
It is.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I will take signups until the very last second,
great.
just to get more people. We had over 80 people in 2019. I think we have 72 right now, so I'd love to beat 80. Another service that we offer down at the senior center is transportation. So you probably have seen our lovely Van Go, which is our new vehicle we got last year, and it's painted with Starry, Starry Night on the side. So we offer transportation. Typically, the transportation is within an 11-mile radius. It's kind of an imaginary line. However, if someone really needs to get to 12, 13 miles, we can take them there. But we do that kind of imaginary line, so that way you don't have one person going to Plymouth to a doctor, and that's all we can service through the day. We have 2 full-time van drivers driving all the time throughout Foxboro and in surrounding communities, trying to get people either to doctor's appointments, hair appointments, even just going to visit friends or coming down to the senior center or going grocery shopping. We also, because of a transportation grant, we were able to do some new things this year. So we started a discovery club where we take 14 people on a trip somewhere. So they've been down to Plymouth, they've been up to Salem, so it's not as involved as our day trips or overnight trips, but it's just a great way for someone to spend $7 to go somewhere unique. So we have the van and we have the car, and we are lucky enough to, this year, we're actually replacing the car using a separate grant, that separate transportation grant. We're able to get the funds to purchase a new car. So that is coming sometime, hopefully early this fall. So I talk a lot about grants, and it's something that I'm also really passionate about is alternative funding sources. Tax money is great. I love using tax money for our services, but I really try and find other alternative funds to operate the vast majority of our programs. I like to go out for grants. We get a formula grant every single year. It's about $38,000 this year. Should be close to $40,000 next year. We also have a partnership for the next 3 years with Brigham and Women's to offer really unique transportation as well as a mental health grant that we're working on right now. We also have great partnerships like with the Friends of the Foxboro Seniors who essentially anytime I ask them for, I need money for something, they jump right up in any way that they can help. I really appreciate that. And obviously the craft organization, they were able to buy us some great things over the last year, including a new copier, which we desperately needed. I'm pretty passionate about not coming to capital improvements or things like that. If it's a senior center, if I can find alternative sources, I'd rather do that. And that was where we got over $157,000 over the last year. I'm looking at about $145 next year. Hopefully, if I can find a few more grants, I can get that number a little bit higher than the current year. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Renee.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having us. For those that don't know me, I'm Renee Tocci, and I am the Director of the Recreation Division. I am super happy to be working under Marc and working alongside with Allie. It's been really helpful learning all these new things like grants and all the fun stuff that Marc does. He's really, helped guide me along. We had a great year coming out of COVID. After last summer, we started back with our fall programming, the Pee Wee soccer, T-ball, those classes. We have yoga in 3 different capacities. We did a teen yoga program. We have an adult yoga in the evenings in our chapel. And then we also offer mindfulness and healthy for you yoga in the mornings, also in the chapel. These are our 3 properties. The Payson Recreation Area, the Booth, and Mill Street. Basically, Payson and Booth are looking pretty much the same as they always have. We have great facilities. The fields have been just booming. There's been baseball games, lacrosse games. This spring, it's been great to see everyone out there. The rain has kind of held off, so we haven't had too many cancellations. And down at Mill Street, we're doing some renovations that have been amazing. We just updated over at the chapel. We painted the vestibule out front. We did some new mulch, had the weeds and everything just pulled, some potted plants. One of my yoga instructors actually asked if she could do it. She is there watering them every day, which I'm very grateful for because I do not have a green thumb. So one of our biggest projects this year is the pool. It hasn't been opened in 2 summers. And this year we are going to open it, and we are super excited about it. And that has quite a bit of renovations that are already happening now. We are selling memberships. In the past, I think we've probably sold 2 or 3 memberships, and people used to just pay the $5 as you go. I've already sold 15 family memberships, 9 senior memberships. I haven't sold any individual ones, but it's been great, and people have been calling. I think the postcard that Marc had sent out that showed that. There's been a lot of Facebook posts and whatnot. I think the fact that it's going to be heated has also been a big plus. I've talked to, we were at the open house up at the senior center, and it was great because we got to talk to, so many different people that, number one, may not have known that we had a pool, or ones who had visited before, paid the $5. It was freezing cold, and they were like, well, I'll never come back. So they were super excited about that as well. This is the start of our renovations. The top left picture shows where an accessible ramp is going to be going in with some new fencing as well. So that's the start of that project. The top right is showing that trees, I think it was like 6 or 7 trees came down, and 4 or 5 of those cabins have also came down. We cannot thank DPW enough. They did such an amazing job down there, and it's looking awesome. So the area where the trees came down is going to be like a picnic area. We're going to do some picnic tables, cornhole boards, like can jam and those fun things to be put out there. In the one cabin that you're seeing there is going to be a snack shack, and where the gate attendant will be. So those that have the memberships or need to pay as they go will check in at that gate and go in that way. The bottom left is just showing we had the building painted, and it looks fabulous. And the bottom right is just to kind of show a back shot of that. One of my favorite things is our farmers market, and we'll be back this year. We are we have planned an event for every market. The first market is yoga in the park. So one of my yoga instructors is going to be up there. And I threw it up on Facebook today, and I already have 13 people signed up. It's a free event. We did ask for a registration just so we could kind of have an idea who's going to go. But some of the other events are going to be on June 9th. Jack Othelette is going to be there to do a book signing. We are going to have a sidewalk chalk contest on the 16th. We have a traveling petting zoo that's going to come up there, which we're really excited about. And again, the whole list will be on our Facebook page. It'll be on our website, as well as the town page once I get it finalized. Our biggest program is back better than ever. We are so excited. We just hired 29, or rehired some, and have new members, so we'll have 29 summer staff members, which would be great. We're bringing in a lot of junior counselors to help train them and work them through. We have some of our returning counselors, as well as 5 new lifeguards, 3 new gate attendants for the snack shack and the pool gate, the junior counselors and regular counselors. So we're really super excited about the new team that we have. There are still some openings with the Booth Summer Program. We did it this year on a weekly basis versus in the past where you would sign up for the whole 8 weeks. It was just one fee for all 8 weeks. You came when you wanted to. This way, last year we started it with the week by week. Because of COVID, we wanted to make sure we knew exact numbers on who would be there when, and it really worked out. So we decided to do it again this year. We got a lot of great feedback about that. So there are some openings still available there. It does say that we're open from 9 to 3. There is before care and after care for those that need. From 7:30 to 5, you can be at camp. So also during the summer program, we are going to go to the pool on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That'll be part of already what you paid for the week. It's $89 a week, and the pool comes included with that. It's optional. You do not have to go to the pool. You can stay back at Booth and play, or you can take the bus and go to the pool, and it'll be a pre-registration type of thing. So again, it's $89 a week, and that shows the before care and the after care. And every Wednesday is a field trip, and that's an option that you would pay separately for.
So do we not have to sign up for pool days anymore?
You're going to sign up for them. You don't have to pay.
Oh, okay, that's.
So we don't need the $2 bills coming in.
$2, whatever we are.
Or the 8 quarters falling out of the kid's
Yeah.
pocket going, I just want to
It's
go
a
to
lot
the
easier
pool.
for
My
the
mom
parents,
said I
too.
could go.
Okay.
Because usually they have their bathing suit on in no
Yeah.
pocket, so the mud coins are everywhere. So no, this will make it easier. And the one thing that everybody begged for last year is we are going to be open on rainy days. With COVID, when we started our enrollment, it was during April, and there was still COVID restrictions. We weren't allowed to use the school gym. We're back. We're using the IGO gym. It's going to be the same as years past. So you'll get, the big email will come out, the Facebook post, everything by 6:30 in the morning to say whether it's a rainy day or not. So we're super excited about that. Our Little Rec-Kers program is huge. It's getting bigger and bigger. We've added on days. This is for our youngest group, so they're from the ages of 2 to 5. And that summer program meets Monday, Wednesday, Friday. However, we have a school year program that you either come Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. And it's been full every single week, all from September till now. And the weeks are actually filling up. I think there's only a few spots left in a couple of the weeks later in August. Our newest program is the Middle School Adventure. We did a survey at the end of Booth last year, and everybody was saying, what do I got to do with my middle schooler? And I get it. Mine will sit at home and do nothing all day long, play on the video games and whatnot. So we're offering the middle school program, and that's for children going into grade 7 through 9. And that'll be Tuesdays and Thursdays. They'll go on field trips, and some of the field trips are, some big trips like Faneuil Hall, going to Duxbury Beach, Boundless Adventure. So they're, stuff for the older kids to do that I think they'll really enjoy. And on Wednesdays, they'll be at the pool. So kind of the opposite of Booth. Booth will be at the pool Tuesday, Thursday. The middle school will be there on Wednesday. Booth will be a field trip on Wednesday. Middle school will go on field trips on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We also have many mini programs. We've always offered the science program, but we've only done it for elementary age. We're offering a preschool one, an elementary one, and a middle school one, which has been great. We have a lot of great feedback. Our super sports and mini sports, those are going to be week-long programs. And these groups are probably anywhere from 10 to 20 participants. So it's not like a big camp. Some of them are half-day, some are full-day. Our theater week is huge, always. That fills up instantly. Actually, I think it's full right now. We may have a couple of spots available. And one of our newest ones is the Arts and Games Galore. It's just kind of like a free-for-all art, do as you will. type of thing. It's guided, and then it's a board games and just other fun games. You can bring your own, or we can supply them. So we're going to do that for a week as well. We're moved on now. Am I taking up too much time? Sorry. All right, I'm done talking. Sorry. We have other great fun programs.
There are.
All right, go ahead.
Great job.
Rec-Kers, R-E-C. So I thought when you mentioned Little Rec-Kers, it was like Little Wreckers. And I was like, oh, funny. And then I saw that, I'm like, oh.
It's still funny.
So again, I'm Allie Rodriguez, Veteran Services. I did present a few months ago, but I'll just give a really quick refresher on everything we do. This is everything we do. My main goal is to provide Chapter 115 benefits, and that is a Massachusetts-only, veteran-only program for indigent veterans and their families. And we provide things like prescription co-pays, some fuel assistance, ordinary benefits, and that money is reimbursable to the town at 75% of everything paid out. And it really allows veterans and their widows to stay in their home and to afford their prescriptions, because everybody knows prescriptions are not cheap. And a veteran or a widow should never have to decide whether I pay rent or electricity or buy my diabetes insulin. So this 115 program really is the bread and butter of why VSOs exist. So just some photos from last year, the 215th Army Band, and last Memorial Day with Mr. Kraft and myself, and it was a beautiful little ceremony right at Gillette. And then on the top right is my veterans group, which is held the first and third Monday of each month at the Council on Aging. I love this group, genuinely love this group, and it's very informal, it's very low-key. We'll have coffee, we'll eat donuts, and we'll just talk about anything from what's going on in the news to our service, and we'll poke fun at each other a little bit, and it's good for their mental health. It builds that camaraderie, which everybody misses when we get out of service. Before COVID, it was about 20 people, 20 veterans, but COVID kind of slowly, the numbers have declined a little bit, but hopefully with the open house, I did meet a bunch of new veterans. I didn't know were in the town, and I told everybody about our group, so I'm really, really hoping that they will take my invitation and come the first and third Mondays of each month. So Memorial Day, I'm very excited for this. I'm hoping we get a great turnout. I'm sure we will, because it's Memorial Day.
So I know we're 1 minute late, but I just want to talk about a little bit of early successes. So we've been doing this for a few months now. I've been working together. Obviously, we've known each other for years, but some great things have been happening. So I have that formula grant I talked about earlier. I've been working with the Recreation Board as well as Renee to try and figure out a way to get pickleball to the town of Foxboro. I hate to say it, if we weren't together in a reorganization, it would never happen, right? Those funds would then be spent at the senior center for programs at the senior center, and that's kind of about it. Not because I don't like to play along, but because that's just not my mission outside of the senior center. So now we're working on pickleball that hopefully we can talk about a groundbreaking at some point up at Payson Road sometime in September. We're also doing things like helping out with logistics for Memorial Day Parade. We also do a little bit more of client sharing info. So obviously there are clients that Veterans and Human Services share. Traditionally, if there was a case, everyone would be kept in their own bubble just because that's the way that social workers work, right? Things are kept in the bubble. Now as one department, anything that would be normally shared with me could also be shared with Allie. So the services, the clients are getting much better service because there's a coordinated effort. Instead of playing a shuffle of, oh, no, go talk to this person, no, go talk to this person, it's just the services are being met. So we're really, really proud of that. We also meet once a week. We meet every Tuesday, myself, Allie, Renee, Kristen, and Pam from the Senior Center to try and figure out the best way to help each other and figure out the next best steps to try and do a coordinated effort. So again, so the Foxborough residents are getting the best programs and services. Obviously, we'd be nothing without our partnerships. I won't mention them all, but we have a lot of people that help us out on a daily basis. We're out in the community for a number of programs and activities, and we really, really appreciate their help. Do you guys have any questions for us?
I think that I'm a fan of the reorganization, and I think just through little things, talking to you guys, I've seen, some of the collaboration and how it can be better, and, even just growth for Marc and others. So I think it's been a great collaboration so far.
Thank you.
Us too.
Us too? I think so.
Yep.
We're gonna be a Coke.
Still being a relative newcomer, and I've seen you for 3 years at AdCom, very impressive what you're offering here. And the three of you now bringing the programs together, really impressive offerings for the residents in the community.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, good job.
Great job.
Thank you.
It's only been, what, 2 months?
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Just getting warmed up. Just getting warmed up.
And I'm just impressed how, like, we've known each other for years, but we're colleagues now. That like it was seamless. There was no fumbling around. There was nothing. We just work.
Yep.
And
Makes
I
sense.
love it.
Just
It's
made sense,
beautiful.
that's why.
It just makes sense.
just made
Yeah.
So easy.
It really is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. I'm glad to see you guys smiling as a team. All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, so next up for 7:30, we have award recognition, sidewalk improvement plan update from the DPW/Water Department. And we've got a couple agenda items within. We're going to talk about the award, which is awesome. We're going to talk about, if I had Chris here, I want him to talk about water restrictions. I was going to make sure why, people understand why those happen. And then coming out of town meeting, I thought it was important to talk a little bit about the sidewalk improvement plan update, given some of the discussions there.
All right. Thanks for having us in.
Thanks for coming.
First topic, we don't do the best job talking about ourselves and our wins. And I think this is a great opportunity to get in front of not only this board, but hopefully some people watching at home to recognize an award that the water system in Foxboro received recently from Mass DEP. I have Lance Del Peoria, the town engineer, sitting here with me. We have some members of the staff I'll recognize momentarily as well. So every year, Mass DEP goes through and issues awards for outstanding performance and achievement. They do one for each region in the state. So we're in the Southeast region, and Foxboro actually won the award for outstanding performance and achievement in the Southeast region for 2021. I'm going to read quick a portion of what the submittal was. This is not something that the town submitted. This is something that was done by Mass DEP. I would love to be able to, go out and get our own awards, but that's not how this one was received. So, they wrote here, Foxboro is a municipal community public water supply that has 13 groundwater wells, 4 treatment plants, 3 storage tanks, 5,904 service connections, plus the Gillette Stadium and Patriot Place shopping complex. The system operators are hardworking and enthusiastic professionals who are dedicated to the current and future ability of the system to provide a safe, fit, and pure supply of drinking water to their customers. The team has undertaken an impressive long-term effort to almost completely rebuild their sources and treatment infrastructure. They go on to list a lot of the projects we've done in the last 5 years and some of the projects we have coming up. Then it goes on to say, the system maintains all of its records in excellent order, and all required submittals are made to Mass DEP in a well-organized and timely fashion. Mass DEP's Southeast Regional Office is pleased to award its 2022 regional recognition to the Foxboro Water Department in acknowledgement of its professionalism and its continuous efforts to maintain a reliable water source. So that was the submittal that brought us to the point of receiving this award. I think it's important to note that this is not my award. This is, it starts with Bob Wordley, who's been the water superintendent for the last 10 years here and has really been a true leader in that department. But it's not his award either. This award really goes to the entire water division, that entire staff. With us tonight, we have Rick Cadlick and Tim Daniels, who are assistant water superintendents.
Come on up, guys. Come on up.
Come on up, guys.
Come on up. People need to know who you are.
How you doing? I'm Tim Daniels. Rick Cadlick.
Grab a seat.
We also have with us our admin staff, who really without these three, we would be nowhere. They
To the front row.
they run the office
People need to
on
know who you are.
a daily basis. They handle all customer calls. We have Jessica Minton, we have Cheryl Tacey, and we have Marisa Bristol, who a lot of that system maintains all of its records in excellent order, and all required submittals are made to Mass DEP in a well-organized and timely fashion, are from the three of us, the three sitting behind us right now. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, we brought some of the faces who this award really belongs to with us tonight for their recognition as well. You know, and just quick, there are other staff members who couldn't be here. Steve Sloan, who's a supervisor, and then our water technicians, I'm going to read them all. Mike Doolin, Mike Smith, Brian Jacobson, Rob Kellum, Mike Page, Alan Ramsey, Rob Kerr, Ryan Dunn, and Mike Hayes. We have 4 mics in the department. Who put in the day-to-day work, whether it's in the treatment plants, recording the making sure the chemicals are right, taking those daily readings to make sure the water's safe going out the door, to the operation side of things, the pipe in the ground. You know, they're you know, the boots on the ground. They're the staff that really, you know, has won this award for us. And then my last, actually, Eileen Hurley, who was on staff for the last 25 years, did retire end of 2021. She's, you know, part of this award as well. And then one last thank you to the Board of Water and Sewer Commission for their support and really their drive and mission for this award, and to put the resources behind the department to get to the point of all of the projects we've done and the staffing changes, and really putting us in the place where we are today. So
the significance of this award is that there's only 3 handed out in the state? Or
there's
is it-
four
there's
through
handed
the
out in
state. Yep. Yeah.
This covers the entire southeast region.
Correct. Yep.
Congratulations.
So
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well done, team. It's great to see you guys recognized too for all the hard work.
Good job.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You guys-
Thank you.
You want to take a picture for the town report, or?
Sure.
I think we've got,
Having
if
it
you guys are okay with that. Everyone's here and looks nice.
The fright in the back row there.
and just, I think I missed the award act did come with an official citation from the Senate, from the state Senate. So we have that as well.
I think it's important to note that it wasn't so long ago that we were really under the gun in terms of the quality of our water in this community, because the system was in the failing state. A lot of things had to be done to improve the conditions. The quality was needed to be treated badly, and a lot of work had to be done. And I think, you know, the community really does appreciate the level of water quality that has come from that stage all the way to this point forward. And it's taken a while. It's taken good, you know, 8 to 10 years to get to that point. But it does go. It's clearly not going without recognition, because people do recognize that this is a really, really well-run system, and you guys do a terrific job. So I'm really, really proud of all of you. Good job.
Good job. Thanks for coming in tonight as well.
Thank you for having us.
Do you want to grab a picture of them? Sure. You guys mind gathering together?
That's why I brought extra people.
Yeah, perfect.
Do you want to hold up the award as well?
Yeah, hold your award.
Yeah, they're not really good.
Maybe against that wall? We've done it in front of the podium before. It's been nice too.
Yeah, let's do it. Where? Mike Weber, can you turn off the projector real quick while we take a photo? Thank you.
Holding you. Who married a Foxboro guy? Chris. No, Jim. When I saw Jeff walk in, I figured we had to get the picture.
Absolutely.
Perfect timing.
Take the bunch, get the best, no blank eyes. Great.
Thank you all again, and congratulations.
Great job.
Thank you.
All right, so we have Chris for a couple more updates as well.
All right. We can jump into the
Seasonal water restriction,
Yep.
yes.
Might as well go right off of that.
Yep.
So I like that you use the word restrictions, because people confuse it and say water ban when that's not where we are. You know, Foxboro has annual water restrictions on non-essential outdoor water use. We are not alone. There is a list of 65 other communities that Mass DEP maintains that have the same or worse restrictions than we have, all locally to us for the most part. These restrictions are declared every May 1st, and they run through September 30th. These restrictions are not a supply issue. Yes, a couple of years ago during construction of all of those new resources, wells and treatment plants, we did run up against it, but that is not where we are today. These restrictions are imposed by our Water Management Act permit, which is from DEP. So back in 2008, when the Witch Pond treatment plant was permitted by the state, that gave them the opportunity to look at our Water Management Act permit and change it. And they did. And they enforce these restrictions on us every year. So these restrictions are 2 days per week. So on Mondays and Thursdays, if you are an odd numbered house, you can water between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. at night. On Tuesdays and Fridays, if you are an even number house, you can water from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at night. Outside of that time frame, it's considered non-essential outdoor water use. I have the list from Mass DEP. They basically consider non-essential use irrigation of lawns via sprinklers or automatic irrigation systems, washing of vehicles, washing of exterior building surfaces, parking lots, driveways, that type of thing. There are some exemptions for new lawns during the month of May and September. So if you are putting down a new lawn in the spring or in the fall, you can go outside and you can call the water department and get an exemption. We basically make a note of it so that if somebody calls up and says, my neighbor's watering or so-and-so's watering, we know that we have them on a list that gives them that exemption for a new lawn. There are a couple things that can make these restrictions more strict. If there is a drought, which we're actually currently in a stage 1 drought declared by the Massachusetts Drought Management Task Force, they can make those restrictions, more strict depending on the severity of the drought. The other thing that we track on an annual basis is how much water we're using per person for residential use. We have a threshold of 65 gallons per day per person. And if we go over that threshold, the next year, our restrictions become more severe. So we would go from 2 days per week to 1 day per week. So those are some of the things, and they're all in our permit. They're all written the same. Anytime somebody goes and their permit gets reopened by the state, they're putting these restrictions in. Like I said, we're not alone. There's 65. I have just surrounding towns: Bridgewater, Canton, Easton, Franklin, Mansfield, Medfield, Medway, Milford, Millis, Norfolk, North Attleboro, Norton, Plainville, and Rentham all have similar watering restrictions. So again, when people say it's just Foxboro, it's not.
And it's not a supply issue. People sometimes think that there's a supply issue too, and just making
Correct.
sure people understand where these come from.
Correct. So we are limited on how much water we can actually pump from the ground, again, through these permits. If we go over those numbers, they come back at us and look at how we're going to fix that moving forward. Water conservation measures, different methods to reduce that water use to get back under the 65. So again, it's not a supply issue. We have 4 brand new wells on Chestnut Street. We have 3 brand new wells on Oak Street. We are working on a replacement well down at Witch Pond. And then we'll be working on the 3 down at Sprague Road in the next year or 2 as well. So these are all some of the resources that we've rebuilt over the last 5 years that have removed any sort of a supply issue concern from the system.
Okay, great PSA.
Chris, quick question.
Steph, hold on 1 second. Steph, we're having just a little trouble hearing you. Can we just get it turned up a little bit, Mike? Okay, try again.
All right, can you hear me better now?
Now we can hear you, Steph. Sorry, you were a little low before.
Yeah, I'm a little raspy too, so quick question. So if somebody in town has their own well, or like, say, like in Summerfield, now the residents don't use well water, but like we're allowed to, we have an irrigation system in here because it's on a well we have. Do those numbers factor into the equation for, how many gallons per person?
They do not. So we don't meter that well water, so we don't actually know how much is coming out of the ground.
Okay.
Irrigation wells are permitted through the Board of Health, so they don't factor into, our Water Management Act permit or our restrictions at all.
Good clarification.
Thank you.
And I think Dennis had a comment or question.
Just a question, what's the thinking behind the 6 to 9 timeframe for the watering?
It's interesting, there's people that have different opinions on when you should put the water down on the ground so that it gets the most infiltration in. The 6 to 9 at night, one, it lets the system recharge. So when we have our maximum usage, we're drawing from our storage tanks. And then when everybody goes to bed, and if the wells are still running, we have an opportunity to recharge the system before the morning rush. I've done a lot of research on when the best time to water is. And, what I've seen, and again, there's various opinions out there, but, 6 to 9 at night lets the water sit on the ground the longest. Once that sun comes up in the morning, if you're watering from, 5 to 8, 5 to 9 in the morning, once that sun comes up, that evaporation starts off the grass. So leaving it overnight really lets it evaporate or lets it, sink into the grass and the turf before the sun comes up.
Speaking of new lawns too, how's the common doing?
There's grass growing. There is grass growing. We do have sprinklers up there. We're using our May timeframe to get some water on the lawn and hope for some rain in the near future too to help us out. But it is growing. It will take this season. It'll take into the fall. We'll reseed it in the fall to help thicken it up. I don't expect especially with it being as dry as it is to have nice lush grass this summer. But we will get it back.
Okay, it's a start. All right, and then the last item I asked Chris, sorry, I heard Chris was coming in and then I piled on with all the stuff for him to talk about. Obviously coming out of town meeting, for those of us that were there was a lot of talk about sidewalks. So you had mentioned, I think at town meeting, there's a sidewalk improvement plan and, I don't know how often that's reviewed or when it was. So just just an update and what's next on sidewalk improvements around town.
Sure. I'm actually gonna turn it over to Lance and let him take a stab at it first.
I'll lighten the burden a little bit. So the DPW's partnered with Beta, who's going to help us develop a sidewalk master plan to help us sort of, collect public input and determine sort of a methodology and prioritization of, sidewalk infrastructure for the future in terms of, new sidewalks, in terms of, upgrading existing sidewalks and, where the money should really, be spent. We have, I'm sure what I've heard, unfortunately I wasn't able to attend town meeting, but, there's discussion around the Complete Streets plan, what should we be applying for and, should we reevaluate that list? So part of the first steps we've started is Beta's developed a heat map, sort of like common pedestrian heavy areas, kind of overlaid that with a prioritization, and then we've also developed sort of an existing infrastructure map, and we put that all together in a survey, which did that end up getting to the, so if you guys, I don't know if you had an opportunity to take a look at it.
I forgot to reply back about that, sorry.
It's all good. So, any input, if after today or something, you guys want to give any feedback on that, it's just a brief survey, just kind of get people's minds rolling on the subject, and see if there's any interest in any sort of future participation in, any sort of, public listening sessions or working groups that may happen later on. So really, it's, just really trying to look for that public element, and that's a big part of this. Also, Beta's helped us previously with our ADA compliance plans and sort of working all of that in together, and with the Complete Streets, with everything, and sort of make a more comprehensive approach to that. So just kind of early steps on that, but we're hoping to get that survey at least out to the public soon, give them a lot of information, see where everyone's mind's at, hopefully. So.
Okay.
Yeah, they're we did, looking at the Complete Streets policy and that plan, it's a little vague. It does say that we should be reviewing that plan periodically, as items come off of that list, if we want to reprioritize. It is something like, I think I said at town meeting, that does, go back through the state process, to keep that plan updated as we apply for projects. They want to see that that plan is, still in effect, and we're working off of that. So we did have a couple people reach out after town meeting with interest in, helping us review that and giving their input. So that's something that'll be on the back end of the survey is,
Hello?
If you're,
Sorry.
if you're interested in participating and, giving us feedback, there is a spot at the end of the survey to, provide contact information so that we can reach out in the future. We do have a draft plan for this construction season next year. This year we are looking at the mile of sidewalk on Mechanic Street that runs from Railroad Ave, or the railroad tracks, up to Chestnut Street. And then there's that small piece on the opposite side of the street. So we're planning that for sidewalk improvements, this construction season, along with repaving Mechanic Street, that stretch of Mechanic Street. And next year we're looking at across the street, Market, Centennial, Rock Hill Street. We're looking at upgrading that curbing and sidewalk over there as the Shovel Town project finishes up their site work, their street work. We'll get in just after them and work over there. Something to note that, when it comes to budgeting, sidewalks per linear foot are as expensive as the roadway at work is. So you're repaving a 5-foot sidewalk, that's just as expensive as repaving a 24-foot stretch of roadway. So it is something that, factors into our budgeting. As we put that infrastructure money into sidewalks, the miles of roadway that we're going to pave will get reduced to offset. We'll look at other infrastructure, funding, all the different infrastructure bills that are coming out now and for the next couple of years, and see what we can, take advantage of to help offset those costs.
Just,
Yeah, Chris, just a comment, with all the discussion at town meeting, I think it was good for people to hear that you have a plan, because what happens when somebody wants something done and it's important to them, they come forward, and everyone wants, the sidewalk in front of their home to be there and in good shape. So I think the fact that people were able to know that, it's not that you're ignoring sidewalks, you have a plan. And it was funny, I believe it was Debbie Spinelli made a comment when she stood up that I thought to myself, I'm like, I didn't even know exactly, where the resident petition meant, but I think she knew the area a little bit and said, it doesn't connect to anything. So I mean, I get it, they want a sidewalk, but just an observation that it seemed like once people understood that you have a plan, and unfortunately, every sidewalk can't be first, that at least I think people then get that you'll get to them as you can. It's not that anybody's ignoring the sidewalks. So like I said, just an observation.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly why we wanted to have him come in, just to talk a little bit more about the plan. And I love the survey idea, so people can be heard. I will review that and let you know if I have any thoughts on it. Sorry about that. But I think it's a great way to, that people can kind of voice their observations or their desires and needs, and then we can look at it as a whole, because, everyone wants something, but there's only so many resources to go around. So where is it critical with the heat map and such?
So Leah, thanks Chris and Lance for coming in to talk about this, but I do think it's critically important to have a plan, because you are right now at probably an extraordinary time, probably the most extraordinary time I've seen in many, many years, where so much federal money is coming through, that communities that have a plan will be considered first in that lineup for receiving those funds. So I think it's really important to get that squared away as soon as possible and making sure we prioritize those things. I also think it's important, I know Bill Euton is here for the building discussion tonight, but I know that he made mention of the fact that it's important that we prioritize around schools as well, and I trust that's part of your plan, and I didn't hear it tonight, but I know that it is, and maybe you just want to touch upon that just briefly.
Yeah, I think when people go into the survey and what they'll see is there's like Lance said, an existing infrastructure map. There's also the heat index map that shows what Beta has typically seen when they've done these plans around common areas or schools or parks or playing grounds, and that focus on the schools will show up in that heat index map. When people take a look at it, that's what our engineer has set out, we've had input on it, and really it's to put it out there and see if we need to change that at all. But that is out there, around the
Just
schools.
help to prioritize the work,
Yep.
clearly. Yeah. Okay. Great.
All right, great, thanks. Any other questions before we move on?
No.
All right, wonderful, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. All right, so next we have the capital building strategy discussion. To discuss capital building needs in Foxborough to include but not limited to the DPW building renovation/addition, the proposed community center project.
So, thank you for having this on the agenda tonight. So, it's been a while, since the last town project that we worked on for a building was this building. And I think, so I'm grateful that Bill is here tonight to talk about this, but we have two projects that have been discussed recently that really are quite essential to, at least from what I'm hearing for a lot of different reasons, to look at for construction right now. And there's a third building as well, which is the Taylor School, which already we're in the process of lining that up for funding over the next several years. And when we first did the analysis of this, it came out that the DPW facility should be first in line because it is the oldest of the town facilities that hasn't really received any attention in many years, and it clearly is at a point now where some of the critical needs are not being met in that operation, and we're going to be shortly in a position where we're going to be out of compliance in some areas because we're not meeting those guidelines that are already established. So the facility that we currently have, we have improved upon it in bits and pieces over the past several years. We put the new sand shed there, a salt shed on the property, which does take away the exposure of the salt into the ground and protects it during the inclement weather. But we also did some minor changes along the way, but there's still quite a bit of work that needs to be done. Things such as, fixing the fuel pumps, in addition to the building that really has not had any kind of major improvements in many, many years. So I think that's one that has to be addressed. The second is that we've had a lot of comments and concerns coming from the senior center / community center direction, because, and especially now that we're seeing more and more programs being developed, that there just simply isn't enough space in the existing facilities to accommodate the needs that we currently have. And that's just, and if you take a look at the population, the senior population that's continuing to grow. So in addition to that, we're seeing a lot more interest in recreation programs, and the fact that they're all working under one roof now clearly makes, draws the attention to, let's have a facility that makes sense to address all those needs at the same time instead of having individual or separate facilities that would be very costly to the community as well. So that's the discussion points, and I think the next logical process to this would be to get the building committee involved and start, and to a large degree, we've already had some preliminary discussions about this. And it's unfortunate that, we weren't able to get some of the funding that we thought might happen at town meeting, but it doesn't mean we should stop the process, because I think the needs of those facilities don't go away. And it just means that we're going to have to fund them in a different direction. And I think what we need to have is a plan and understand the costs associated with these projects, understand the needs, and identify and present to the community the kind of things that we think should be included in these facilities, and let the community, again, decide if they want to continue to support them or not. But I think the first step in that is to have a conversation with the building committee and to start the initial process of more or less lining up the costs of what these projects might look like. And I'll stop there, and maybe, Bill, you can maybe add a few more words to that in terms of what the process is. If you would. Thank you.
Hello.
Hey, Bill.
So I think the approach the town's taken since we did the Adjourn project, which was almost 20 years ago, has been really to develop, as Bill said, the actual concept of the plan and get some pre-pricing on it, and then go out for bonding. The advantage to that is the taxpayers know really what we're going to spend versus, well, we think we're going to estimate it's going to be in this range, and then all of a sudden it is or isn't. It's virtually in the last I guess, 7 or 8 projects we've done. All but one, we gave money back to the town in the end. We never had to come back to the town to ask for additional funding. And I think that's really critical. The positive side of any time you do have money left over in a building project, it can only be used on the next building project because you've bonded the money, so it's got a restricted use. So in every case, it's flowed into the next building project. Town Hall flowed into the Borough School. The library flowed into the Town Hall. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, the taxpayers are pretty much protected when they do the funding because it can't go anyplace else. But in this case, you've got 2 projects, and I agree with Bill. We've talked about this for a while in the DPW. DPW is one of our best resources for almost every department in town as far as what they do for all of our equipment, whether it's our buses or the cruisers or, even the DPW equipment itself that's taking care of the roads and the parks. So having that facility really have its abilities, it's ironic to a degree that the fire department actually has a better mechanical bay than our DPW garage does. And so I think when you look at it from that perspective, again, it's a newer building. We took that into account when we did it. That's really the type of technology you need to put into place at this point. I think we're going to be short-sighted if we don't look at the potential when we put this building together for what electrical vehicles may bring down the road. Not that you're going to build for it at this point, but make sure the building could handle it if you needed to have it. And I would say that, again, if you go through a fairly simple process that we've done on all these projects, which is do the feasibility in, first of all, what does the department need? We have, in the last, number of projects, always included members of that department in the building process. When we did the joint public safety building, we had a police officer and a fire department member who sat in every single meeting. Even though they didn't have voting rights, really the committee's only there to do what they need. So the committee really voted along the lines of what they wanted to get done. And I would strongly recommend the exact same thing on this process for either one, whether it's Council on Aging, Recreation, or the DPW, that there be members within there that would be adjunct members to the building committee. And that would be at every one of our meetings and going through all the details as we go through them as well. The feasibility study, again, is the most important part of it. It starts at the very beginning here. DPW has one advantage that no other department has, and that is by law, any project over $1.5 million, you have to have an OPM. They actually could serve, if so chose, through their engineers to be the OPM, which could save the town a significant amount of money. I know a couple other DPWs that's exactly what happened. And again, from the OPM side of it, they're there all the time anyway, so your staff is on board.
Sorry, Bill.
Owner's
OPM.
project manager, I'm sorry. Owner's project manager. So that's the person that basically, or the organization. I mean, it's been done where there's been multiple people. So like in this case, you actually have 2 engineers. Either one of them could share the responsibility of doing it. But what it does is it's people that are there all the time that are watching what the contractor is doing to make sure the town gets its value out of the work and that shortcuts aren't taken in the process. Again, you're fortunate in that the members of the building committee, which we've included facilities people now, Carl Fuller's on there, Jeff Sloan's on there, Steve Sloan's on there, Gary and Jeff Whitehouse are both on there. So people that are in the trades and stuff that understand things are always around too. And that's always been the building committee's strength, is that we can look at any one of the plans and designs and say, okay, it's not working the way it's supposed to be. What do you need to make changes. So, so going through the process, if we can get the DPW, which we plan to meet with next week, to get preliminary, conversations going as far as exactly what are they looking for, looking at the site, making sure it can handle it, and then starting to create a structure of cost, and then work through it from there. We would, once we get past that, then again, you'd be coming back to the town at some future date for the full funding against it. And as far as Council on Aging and Recreation, the exact same thing. They have already worked on some concepts of how they'd like to see this thing. I think we are fairly comfortable as a community that we've got a site that we can use that doesn't cost the town any more money in the old laundry building area. It ties to recreation property, which is another advantage to it. And it's a flat area once we get rid of the building. So again, there's a number of steps here. The hope would be, I think, in any of these projects, and it's been in the last number that we've done, is that debt is coming off as we're replacing it. Now, we've been very fortunate in the last couple projects that it's actually been able to be done within the levy limit. It's not likely on these next two projects that are going to go through, so it would be something that you'd have to do a debt exclusion on. However, if you have excluded debt dropping off the schedule and you're just basically replacing it, it doesn't create an additional tax burden to taxpayers. It just basically replaces a tax amount that's been in place. So I think timing-wise, that can all work. It usually will take a couple years by the time you get all these plans done and all the bidding done and the process. Once we started the borough, from the time we got the actual go-ahead, we didn't put a shovel in the ground for almost 11 months. So by developing, it takes almost a year to develop all your plans, your final plans. So that's the process. And I think, again, it's worked well for the town in the past. And it always comes back to the taxpayers once they have a real number as to whether or not they want to support it.
Thank you.
So to make sure I'm understanding correctly, tonight you're looking for us to agree to move forward to get the costs, and then it would go to town meeting for the voters to decide
That's
if
always-
they
yeah.
wanted to move forward with some better numbers.
Yeah, because I think it's hard, Lee, if you're going to go and say, okay, we think the DPW is a $5 million project, and we think the Council on Aging is a $18 million project. It could end up being $22 million, and it could end up being, $2 million on the other side. You just don't know. So I think the firmer you can get the estimates down to real numbers, it doesn't mean that we've always been lucky that our timing has been good when we go out to bid, and we've caught things just at the right time. But that's also part of the game here. Once you get everything kind of in line, you know when you need to go out to bid. And you also know when you want to do the bonding so that you can get the lowest rates you can get to. So that's the one thing we're going to be facing here is obviously we're seeing rising rates. We're still a AAA rated community, so that's a big advantage to us. But the longer things take on, the potential, the higher the cost will be. So.
I think the one thing that's really important, and Bill and I have both seen this over the course of our careers, is that waiting doesn't really help the cause, because the longer you wait, the more expensive the project gets. That's just a fact. We saw that with this building. We saw it with the school, with the borough school. We've seen it with several other projects that we've looked at over the years. So waiting doesn't really solve the problem, and it gets more expensive for the project. While we are in line to see higher interest rates over the short term, we don't know what the long term will bring. But the one thing that's advantage is, as Bill just discussed, is that we've looked at this in finance already. A big amount of debt of excluded debt is coming off in 2027. So timing-wise, this is probably the best time to look at this and to start the process, because it's going to take several years before we actually start the construction project. But I think now is the time for us to be doing the planning, getting things lined up, and then getting the flavor for the community, what they want to support. So I think this is the right step and the right process. The advantage is that both Bill and I are here right now to help with that process. Both of us are going to be moving on, as you know, but I think we're very familiar with how this works and now is the time to have the conversation and to maybe start the process.
And I mean, there are advantages, obviously, of grouping debt together. So I think Bill and I talked about it at one point, potentially trying to just horseshoe these two together quickly as we go here. That may not, based on the change in interest rates, may not be our best mode. May be that we go after the DPW first and try to just get it moving, and quickly have the other one come right behind us, because you're not going to save a tremendous amount on bonding, and I'm going to be pretty sure that there's some other things that we're going to need in town that we typically would bond, whether it's through the water and sewer side of things or whatever, that we can combine any one of these projects with. So. That being said, I think you need to take somewhat of the urgency on at least the DPW building, but the other one as well, just keeping them moving forward as fast as you can. We've spent about $113 million on all the buildings we've done in town since 2002. So that's a doubling of the Ahern in size and full renovation. It's a full renovation of the high school. It's a new joint public safety building. It's a new doubling the size of the library and renovating the other part. It's a new town hall, and it's a new renovation of the borough school. And I know towns have spent that on a single building. So I think we financially have done better than most. But again, I think it's the process. And so I think the sooner you get the process, and the beauty of, quite honestly, once you do this, just because you maybe have to hesitate for a year from a financial point of view, having the plan is the biggest part of it. You can always just push the plan off for a second until the timing is right. So,
Exactly right.
but being ready is key.
Can you talk a little bit about the Taylor too? Because when I think of the Taylor, it hasn't been renovated. I know it's 1 year older than the Borough. And obviously that's coming up, and I've heard, for me, that's definitely a need, that building. But from what I hear, it's probably further out, which is why these buildings should come before. Just talk to us a little bit about the Taylor too, and how it relates to these time-wise.
I think obviously I wear a few hats in town, so obviously representing the schools, it is my responsibility to be pushing school stuff, but I would have to say that, at least in my opinion as a taxpayer as well, I see the DPW as the biggest need right now. The Taylor School, though, we did start the process. I filed a submission. I brought it in front of this committee as well as the school committee. We filed a statement of interest. The statement of interest strictly sends into the MSBA, which is our funding source for a good portion. We're getting about 40, probably end up with about 45 to 48%, and it looks like we may get an extra 2% on our lead thing. So we may get close to 50% on the borough project from the MSBA. So they're a partner that you can't, not wait for. So we will go through the process with them. The filing they don't even open up what they're going to move forward until sometime late in the fall. So, there's no way that even this first submission, we went 3 submissions on the borough before we actually got approved. You have to understand they get about 113 to 120 submissions for each round that they go through, and they can only grant about 30. So the odds in your first, submission, unless your building literally is considered unsafe to be in, which ours is not, we have done a good job maintaining the Taylor. The only reason it got pushed off behind the borough, to be honest with you, is that we had put a new roof in it. We had put in new heating systems. We've been trying to address things because it was in better shape than the borough was to start with. So we didn't want to dump money into the borough because there was no chance that was going to survive, where we knew we could get the Taylor to survive a little longer. So I think Taylor does need to be done. The Taylor has a lot of things that from a curriculum point of view just aren't right. But it's, in my mind, I would be stunned if we get approved by the second year. That would be a miracle. I really think it would be the third year. And we got approved by the MSBA nearly 7 years ago on the borough.
Okay.
So kind of gives you an idea of how the whole thing flows. It's timely. It just takes time.
So Bill, will there be something else coming off? So here's my personal feelings. I just feel like the community center. First it was we needed a new senior center. Then we moved on to community center. And by no means am I not saying that I wouldn't love to see a beautiful community center in our town, but I'm just wondering about the priority. And so say 3 years from now, you get the go-ahead for the Taylor. I'm guessing, like you said, once that type of funding comes, you're not going to turn it down. You're going to want to move forward. So what they're saying, maybe in 18 months from now. So not only am I concerned about what the debt will, like taking debt off and what will come on, but we're seeing now gas is more pricey, food is more pricey. So for me, I just can't say apples to apples that debt's coming off and we're going to be even. It could be the next couple of years that we also have residents everywhere, not just in Foxboro, that are going to have to tighten their budgets. So I'm wondering, do you have a feel? And I know you're supposed to be pushing for the schools, I get that, but you're going to be stepping down soon, and you are a taxpayer, like you said. So, do we have a priority on what's going to go first? If the community center goes first, are we going to get people to come to town meeting and okay the Taylor? Or, do we have a priority, whether it's going to be the school or the community center? Now, for me, my kids are just about out of school. So it's not even that the schools, but I know schools will always help with your property value when you have good schools in your town. So, I mean, for me, I kind of feel like the school will end up being a need, where the community center for me is a want. You know, and I would love to see the community center project go too, but is there any issue here where we're going to struggle on which one of these projects will be what, you know, the need before the want?
Yeah, well, I think it always, Steph, it's always going to come back to the taxpayers as to make that decision. I think as a representative of the building committee, we don't ever make that decision. We will guide the community as far as facilities needs and issues, but we won't, you know, try to convince town that spending money is their job. We tell you what the money is that we need to spend.
Yeah.
So I think from that perspective, I hear what you're saying. I, you know, also know if you look at the debt schedule and if you understand how the town's debt schedule works, what's different on a municipal funding of any bond is that you pay actually more in the front years than you pay in the back years. It's not a fixed schedule. So as you're paying down principal, the whole thing is dropping down. So even though you have a couple that are dropping off, you have others that are continuing to drop down at the same time. So you're creating more availability, if you will, in the process of what you have for potential debt. And again, the secondary part of that nobody can answer the question right now on is, if anything were to happen, which was programmed years ago to happen up on Route 1, that creates another source based on growth. So there are things that we just don't know at this point, and we may not know until we're ready to get to the Taylor project, and we may get lucky and we may not get lucky. So I think from that perspective, as I said, I think this is going to be years in the making on the Taylor. It's something that the school system has put itself in good stead to be able to make it to, but we do consider it a priority from the school side. But again, I think you can't stop maintaining the rest of the town. That's kind of a mistake that we made as a community years ago with what happened to the original town hall, and that was we kind of just put our hands up and said, well, we don't have money, we're not going to do anything. The town hall obviously fell apart, and now you're sitting in a nice new one at a tune of, you know, $8 million. But so I think the reality is you have to maintain all your facilities. I will say, obviously, a brand new facility that's a joint facility is different than replacing an existing facility, and that's why I think from the building committee side, the DPW is an existing facility that needs to be maintained now. Or we lose it, and it's going to be much more expensive down the road to the community. But the other side of it is, again, you have taxpayers who also have been paying money towards all these other projects that feel that they, you know, would like to have something to.
Oh, yeah.
So I think from that perspective.
So do you think with what's coming off debt, like say, so in the next 8 years to 10 years, with what should be coming off, and I know the prices, you know, we don't know what the prices are yet, but we should maybe be able to handle all three of these projects?
Well, the Ahern definitely is coming off because that was a 2002 project. The joint public safety can't be too far behind it. So I would tend to say that, you know, there may be a combination where you need to use some budgetary money and some debt exclusion if you're trying to keep it as a neutral thing. But it is potentially possible by the time the Taylor comes along. And again, I think when we go to town meeting and this conversation is going to come up again, Steph, for the first project all the way through. Yeah. And I think hopefully at that point in time, again, we could put together the plan that kind of shows how this all lays out.
Perfect,
I think that's key.
I just happened to see that the town of Pembroke, I think it was the town of Pembroke, voted down for a community center. You know, so like I said, I want to make sure that we're not just going to overextend it, you know, like you know much better than I what's coming off and what will you know open up for you know for us to be able to invest in a new building and maintaining buildings. So, you know.
Steph, we got something in the room. If you don't mind, it's hard with the video and the people in the room. If you have a question, just let us know and then just give me a second just to switch modes. So I think Doc has a question in the room.
So I think what's really important right now is we're not making any decisions. we're getting fact-finding. We're trying to get the information we need so that when we do go to the citizens at town meeting, we'll have hard numbers. We don't have hard numbers right now, but there's a lot of questions. So anything we do today is just starting the process of getting the knowledge out there for town meeting. And now's a good time to do it, as Bill said a number of times. Timing's perfect.
Well, I think, didn't we just spend $40,000 on a feasibility study for this?
That was a preliminary study.
Preliminary study.
Yeah.
That wasn't to estimate costs for it, though.
Yeah.
That's a different step in the process.
Oh, okay.
That was
All right,
just
no, I thought that came back with a number. I thought it was between 14 and 17 million. I thought that study brought us back a number.
No, it was closer, I think originally it was close to about 11, I think, is the number I saw. But that was just a very, very preliminary number, and that was assuming that we used our own town land and all those things that went with it, so which is what we're looking
Plus
at.
we do know that number is not good now.
Well, that's right, exactly
With the
right.
cost
So-
of everything, yeah.
But I think the key
Okay.
is I start off by saying, Steph, and I think Bill will agree with me on this, is that the key now is to just develop the plan. And then, you can always adjust the plan when you want to implement it. You want to do it now, you can wait a little bit and see when the timing's right to make it work financially. But the way I always approach these things is that you develop your plan about what you need, what it's going to cost, and then you figure out your financing plan that goes with it. The financing plan comes last, but you need to know what the numbers are first before you can develop that.
So obviously, this is a big decision for the town, and we can't ask the town to decide on these if we don't have hard numbers. So this is really not making a decision on the DPW building or the community center. It's the next step in the process to get the actual cost so that we can get a decision from the voters in town. So with that,
Actually,
yeah, go
a
ahead.
quick point. So as far as the senior center, community center, the feasibility study, or what we've seen thus far, is saying it's a new location. So I would hope or expect that the study considers the opportunity, what the opportunity is with the existing location, what happens there, how that's utilized by the town, that's just part of that discussion and conversation.
I will say typically it's not. Any facility that gets abandoned, basically the town then has to make the determination, just like we did with the fire station, after the fact of what you're going to do with it, what funding you may get out of it. Senior center is a little bit more advantageous in that it's location-wise, and it has potential for a number of different types of commercial usage. Doctor's offices, things like that it could be used for, which could turn a financial thing. But I think that would be, again, at the very end here, once you get kind of everything in line, it is part of your financing package. But you're not going to get that out of the feasibility study.
Yeah,
That's
and
gonna
I
be
wasn't
more
necessarily saying it was going to fund the project, but if the community has a sense of that there's value
Can do it.
there,
Yeah.
yeah.
To offset, you mean, kind of?
Yeah.
We did,
Maybe.
Yeah, something.
Well, what
yeah.
the plan is, I mean,
The plan,
Yeah.
how
you're
it
just going to add
factors
another
in.
building and
Right,
keep
right.
another building, I mean, what are you
Yeah.
doing? So
that absolutely was part of our thinking. It was not part of your initial plan, but it is it's part of the overall plan, because it does two things. One is that you can sell the property for value for what it is. On top of that, it comes back on the tax rolls.
Right.
So that's the long-term gain that you pick up on that we're going to pick up with the fire station as well.
Good, thanks.
And what kind of costs are we looking at for either or both of these, this next step? Are we covered? Do
I've
we-
heard numbers, but I got to be honest with you, without actually seeing what the concept of DPW,
Okay.
increase is. My personal opinion is, again, you're looking at things that we've done in the past, like with the fire department. All of the washing of equipment should be inside, should be into a tight tank system, which we do have at the fire station. We don't have at the DPW station that way. What they're going to need for lift equipment and stuff like that, that's going to be new, depends on whether or not the building itself has the room for it, or again, is that part of the addition that you're going to have to go? So I don't even want to guess.
Well,
at this
what
point,
would the cost of the building be? What would the cost of getting the estimates?
The studies.
Like, I mean,
Oh.
what are we looking, for what we're voting on tonight? Are we covered? Is it budgeted?
So we would have to, so that would be part of the conversation about developing the scope of each of these projects to identify, what the scope of the needs are. and then we get estimates from various companies.
Well, you have the first funding done for.
Yeah, so for the DPW facility, we just went out through an RFQ process to select the engineer architect firm to actually do the feasibility study. That was something that was actually voted through as part of that capital plan using some ARPA funding to fund that. So that piece is already funded. The contract will be negotiated for roughly $45,000 for that feasibility study. So through that, they'll come in, they'll do an assessment on the existing building, the existing site. They'll look at the staff that we have. They'll look at the number of vehicles that we have. They'll look at the operation, figure out how the building can be renovated, and if we need to add on for any purposes. One of the big things is obviously the washing of vehicles. We do wash inside when we can, which is connected to the sewer system, but the larger vehicles get, washed off outside, which for a stormwater perspective is not compliant. So the fuel pumps need to be upgraded. Those have been neglected, and the concrete needs to be repoured. The fuel dispensers need to be upgraded, and then it's really just the operation. So we have that already in process. The contract, if it hasn't been signed already, is we'll have signatures on it within the next week or so, and then we'll start that process. I think, our next step, and one of the things for Bill is that we get in front of the building committee and bring them into that process so that we're not going through that feasibility study without input from the building committee, which is what we've scheduled for next Tuesday night to kick off that process.
And to some degree, we already have a preliminary study for the community center as well. So that's a good starting point, and then we'll use that with the committee to start
Okay.
that process.
So it's more for the committee to meet and then go get the estimates, which, we're not going to
Come
be
up with
charged for
estimates
estimates, I
afterwards,
assume, but, okay. Okay, anything else? Before we take the motions? So it looks like we're only going to do the first two lines. I think one's kind of hanging as the third one.
At the school?
That was just in case anything else came up.
Oh, okay, so there's two there. I think you can
Two,
ignore
the
the
first-
last one, but we're
first
going to
two,
do them
yeah.
individually.
Right. Okay, motion to refer the DPW building renovation/addition project to the Permanent Municipal and School Building Committee to determine next steps for the project.
Second.
All those in favor?
Mark, yes?
Dennis, yes?
Leah, yes?
Seth, yes.
Oh, quick question. We didn't say discussion before we started to vote. So are we voting on just to move forward? Is that what the vote is?
Yeah, sorry, I thought we
We're
had
not
quite a
voting-
bit of discussion leading up to it, and that's the question I just asked,
no.
Steph. Is,
No, but I wasn't really sure on what we're voting on.
we're voting to move this to the Permanent Municipal and School Building Committee to get estimates.
Okay.
Not to commit to either project, but to get estimates so that we can take it to town meeting if the committee feels it's appropriate with.
Then town meeting will vote on.
Right.
Just like I remember it was a warrant article to get the $40,000 for the feasibility study. So we're just voting to move this to the building commission.
To get an estimate so that we can go to town meeting with accurate numbers, not inaccurate numbers, correct?
But does it have to be voted at town meeting to spend the money for that, or no?
No.
Okay. Because I thought there was a warrant article to spend that went to town to get an okay for the feasibility study. Am I incorrect with that?
So there was approval we used ARPA money for the approval for the DPW, and there was money for the community center too. So we did have money, those are the initial preliminary studies that were done. So the next phase is to go to the building committee with that information, start looking at developing a plan, and then presenting, a construction document or a construction plan for renovations and building of a new facility.
But I think what Steph's question is, we don't have to go to town meeting for the DPW feasibility because we're using ARPA money.
We already have.
Yeah.
So that we're all set there. We don't have to do what we did for the Council on Aging building because we're using ARPA money for DPW.
So the motion here is just for the DPW building?
We're taking two separate motions, first for the municipal, which they're in, do you have board docs up at home or no? Are you
One more time?
Are you in board docs at home following along?
No, I read them, but I guess my question was, I thought we also had to get approval at town meeting to spend the money to do the feasibility on what the costs are going to be, because we did do that first time around.
But your
That was, I guess, my
ARPA does not
question.
require that stuff.
Yeah, we just answered that, Steph. Because this is ARPA money, we don't have to do that for the DPW.
So we're using the ARPA money also for the community center?
No, DPW only.
Okay.
DPW only.
Because community center already has a feasibility study, so that wouldn't need to be
Okay,
done because it's
okay.
been done.
Okay,
There are
I'm
different
sorry.
steps to the
I was,
project.
yeah, I was kind of putting the two of them together.
Yeah, sorry, I assumed you had it in front of you while we're on the meeting, so that's probably why you're a little confused on those.
Yeah. Okay, Stephanie, yes.
Okay, all right, great. And then we'll take the second one, and I'll stop to see if there's any discussion there this time.
Okay, motion to refer the community center project to the Permanent Municipal and School Building Committee to determine next steps for the project.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, let's do roll call.
Marc, yes?
Dennis, yes?
Leah, yes?
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. All right, so anything else from you guys before we let you go? We've got a lot from you five that are leaving, so
Thank you, Bill.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, so next we're going to go into Assistant Town Manager's update.
Okay, thank you. I have 4 items to update you on. The first, the recruitment report. I'll be very brief because you heard most of it when you heard from Human Services, because most of the hiring recently has been for the seasonal recreation programs. You heard 29 positions in total. But one other position I do want to call out is our working supervisor position over in Tree and Parks. So when Jim Caffin was promoted to the supervisor position, Tree and Park, that made that opening. And we've recently internally hired Linwood Culprit to be the working supervisor for Tree and Parks. Second, I just want to discuss briefly goals. So right now you're working on the town manager evaluation, annual evaluation. If you had any questions on that or input, happy to take that.
It's just driving me nuts that we get all these emails every day with the wrong, I even replied now to the service. It's
We just had
driving
that
me
conversation
absolutely
this
nuts.
I have a meeting tomorrow
Okay.
morning with the implementation
Okay,
team
great.
at Assess Team.
At least if it said the right
To discuss our
date.
concerns.
The
Right.
emails would be slightly less annoying, but they're wrong. And
No, I made that point very
So
clear
I
this
actually,
morning.
because
yeah.
all the emails say like, if you have any questions, reply to this email, so I finally did.
Counterproductive.
Yeah, I finally did, so.
You know, the evaluation process actually was very good, but it's the notification reminders that's actually
Yeah.
something we got to figure out.
And something I brought up to Bill, I don't know if you had heard it, but in the past, we had really clear definitions around each category on the evaluations. And I found on the online system, the categories have changed and there's no definitions, really what that means. So that was a slight change that I had passed to Bill that, it could probably use some definitions, especially if you're going to roll this out across town.
Okay.
Because it is a change in the way it's categorized too from the old form.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll take that up. Thank you for that. Any other questions or input for the evaluations? So next logical step after evaluations is the goals. And I just wanted to propose that as we move on into establishing the goals for next year, that we look at some dates. And we discussed at our meeting this morning 3 upcoming meetings, using your June 7th meeting for input of the goals, soliciting goals from board members. And then on June 21st, discussing those goals, and then going until your July 19th meeting to actually finalize and vote on those goals for the upcoming year. We had pushed it past, not making the decision on the 21st because I think that was the date when you were going to be away.
Yep.
Leah.
Yep.
So we wanted to go past that into July.
So I think June 7th is going to come up really quick, and I actually, after I met with Bill, I know Seth has had a lot of input lately on goals. I feel like it's been something he's been kind of passionate about. For the last couple of years, I've taken the first stab at goals, but I thought, if Seth was willing to take that on, that could be a good project to to have him work on. So just to let the board know, him and I did talk about that. I do think this year we'll need a closer look. We kind of created them, and there was a lot of goals, and we've been rolling them over year to year. But I think this year we really have to focus on readiness for a new town manager. So, I would really defer to Seth if that timeline works for you, and, meeting with Bill in advance. So my thought is for Seth to come out with a list of goals, for us to get them, discuss them, react to them, and vote on them. So, I think we were thinking like 2 meetings, 3 would probably be good too. I don't know if we need 3. But I'd probably defer to Seth.
So two first, tell me what you're suggesting.
So I was thinking 1 meeting where we roll out the goals, where everyone gets to see them, we talk about them. We go back, we think about them, we tweak them, we maybe send individual feedback to Bill or Seth, and then the next meeting we vote on them. I don't know that we need 3.
Okay.
It's good to have 3 built in if we need it.
So you're saying June 7th is the discussion?
So June 7th is when we'd come, I think, with the first draft.
Right.
We wouldn't have to make any decisions. We could all just kind of get them and walk away and think about them. Then the 21st, we could talk about them, then vote on them on the 19th. I had not seen this timeline before today either, so I'm reacting to it like you are as well.
Oh, so you're just, that's basically what Mike said in different words.
Yeah, we
right?
just talked about.
Yeah, but I think we could cut one of these out if we needed to. I think we could cut out either the 7th or the 21st, depending on how it goes.
Oh, okay.
Also, Leah, isn't the 21st meeting, you're not going to be here?
Yep.
Which is why we had
So,
discussed
yeah,
this.
I'm sure you could just send your thoughts to Seth, but if you want to be part of that conversation, I was just thinking maybe we should take that into account, that you're not going to be there.
Yeah, and I just didn't know if Seth would even have time to get them ready for June 7th. I think.
So I actually took a stab at developing 8 new goals,
Okay.
which included the planning for the next manager's position. So including actually between now and January 1st, or the end of January, actually, where this actually considers really part of the process is the recruitment process and sort of me finalizing my truck binder, updating the truck binder, things of that nature, things that will help the transition process, as well as other ongoing projects, like we just talked about a couple of them just now that we're going to be working on during the next several months. But I think I took a stab at that just to get the ball rolling. So I can forward those on to Seth. We can take a conversation. Seth to give me some ideas about some of his thinking early on, and so we'll have to talk about how we incorporate that in to those and then sort of formalize that.
And just remind me, the goals go from July 1st to June 30th, right?
They do typically,
Right?
yeah, typically. Typically.
Yeah, okay. We're just hearing those dates right now, so I don't think we need to make any decisions, Seth, if you want to.
Yeah, no, I think let's shoot for that.
Okay.
Bill, we might want to have a meeting next week.
Yeah, you and I can get together and talk about
Yeah.
what we come up with. All right, I'll send it to you. You can take a look at it.
Yeah, that sounds good, thank you.
So I'm just jumping on the train here. So are these your goals, or whose goals are these?
So they're the board's goals for the town manager.
They're Bill's goals.
So, yeah, so.
We evaluate him.
Yeah, and so what I do is, we work on them collaboratively, so it's sort of like, I give you some ideas, you give me your ideas, and then ultimately we come up with a set of goals. And right now, there's like 26 goals, I think, right now.
Well, there's like
But there's some of them, they carry over, there's some
Yeah.
carryover, some other years.
There's like 3 or 4 main goals, and then there's some
30
like sub-goals within.
So it's like, with the new ones I just added, there was 22, so we just added 8 more.
Okay.
But some of them are things that have sort of expired, we'd already completed, the project's done.
Yeah.
But some things are ongoing, if you will. So I think we will continuously look at those, but I think if you have other ideas that the board really wants to pursue, particularly with a new manager, so it's going to be like a half and half set of goals. Some will be more designed around the new manager's responsibilities. And I think that'll be more of a shorter window to do that, but still, it should be included as part of the conversation now.
I think there's some that are a little bit duplicative. I think there's some like table stakes ones that can come out, as the document's kind of grown, just worth a fresh look.
Yeah.
And I think having someone else take a look could be a
What's
could be a
good about the
idea.
document, though, it actually shows what's been done.
It is
It's a good historical document, because it shows a lot of accomplishments in it.
And it shows for our new town manager where
we've
because
got-
we have the Strong Town Manager Act, there's a lot that they're doing on our behalf and what's important to us and where we need to make sure we don't lose focus where we've grown over the years.
Yeah, and in as much as any members have feedback ahead of June 7th, please share that so that we can, incorporate that as soon as possible and streamline the process as much as we can.
Perfect. Sounds like the work's already started, so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, while we're talking about hiring a new town manager, what is that? What's our? I know we have our timeline. It's in board docs. I don't have it right in front of me. What is our where to hire the recruiting company? Is that number one?
So that's the first step, Steph, and we're probably looking at August, July, August. We'll start that process, and we'll put the RFP out, and then, once the consultant is hired, then I'll more or less step away from the process altogether because I don't get involved in that. But I think the process will begin in earnest at that point. So you're probably looking at September, where you'll really start seeing.
Yeah, and I've been kind of nudging Bill every month, I said, oh, give me the names of the search consultants, I can poke around on them, and, who are we thinking for the committee? So, we've kind of been having monthly
There's
combos.
probably 5 or 6 that'll most likely.
Bill, your last day is sometime in March of '23?
Well, yes, but so actually my actual retirement date is actually a little bit earlier than that, but I'm still in contract until June 30th with the board. So it really will depend upon how much you're going to need me or how much you're not going to need me. It will depend upon, we'll have a discussion about how.
So I thought we had you till March. You saying it's not March? I
Yeah,
thought the
well,
contract
actually,
period was March.
until I went back and I checked on my retirement, the retirement date actually is June 20th, January 20th.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that it's going to be seamless to you because I'm still going to be here.
Okay.
So that's not going to be.
But it will
an
be
issue.
different in a full-time capacity versus a consultant. So you're saying now you will retire January 1st, not March?
No, I'll retire January 20th. That's my retirement date.
Okay.
But I actually will stay on as long as you guys need me, so. it'll
Okay, I
stay-
guess that just changes things for me because I didn't realize that we were moving it into January.
Yeah, so actually, my retirement date was, I didn't realize until I checked with the retirement board, and they said it actually is earlier than I thought, so, but it's not going to change my role here, more or less. I'm still going to be here.
So are we looking to hire a new town manager for January or March?
You can hire them January or March.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Because part of his contract, if you remember, was him staying on.
Right.
as
Right, but
long
that was
as-
March to June.
Correct.
So that's just, that
Now
changes.
Now it's January to June.
Yeah.
It's just January to June,
Yeah.
so it's.
But I guess I wasn't aware of that, so it just
Yeah.
changes things,
Yeah, that was something when I checked with them, they said, well, you can actually leave earlier.
Okay.
So it doesn't make it's seamless to you because it's
Okay.
going to be, I'm still going to be here. So.
Okay.
But the thing is, if we hire somebody who's ready to go, are we going to be paying 2 town managers for 6 months or?
No, that's the beauty of that statement is the fact that if you need somebody and you have somebody that's ready to go in March, I can walk away. It's as simple as that.
Gotcha, okay.
All right, so it doesn't hurt the process at all.
But is your goal to go January 20th though?
No, it's, the only thing that will happen in January 20th is I retire from the town. I will stay on because I have a contract with the town that runs through June 30th.
But you will
But
not be an employee
I'll be a
in full-time
consultant at
capacity,
that
yeah.
point more than the manager. Right.
And how does that impact the charter?
It doesn't impact
It
it at
doesn't?
all. No,
Okay.
I'll be more or less the interim manager,
Okay.
if you will,
Okay,
during that period of time. Okay?
okay, sorry for that took
Yeah,
us
sorry
down a
for the
little
confusion on that, but
side.
that was something which was a surprise to me as well, that I can go actually earlier than I thought.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, Mike, we were in the middle of you and then before we went down a long windy path.
No, not at all. And I really did just want to bring up goals because they're so interwoven with the evaluation. It's a good time to be thinking, for you to be thinking about your goals for next year. So the third thing I had was just wanted to acknowledge Marc, who's here in the audience with us tonight. I didn't realize who would still be here, but also Maria Almodovar, who've both spent this entire year, at least since September, involved in a certificate program in local government leadership and management put on by the Mass Municipal Managers Association. in conjunction with Suffolk University. And they'll be graduating in a couple of weeks in Boston. And so they've worked really hard at this. And, the fruits of their labors have been paying off, week to week as they've been learning. And so it's really been great. You saw what he's done here tonight. We've been seeing the results from Marie on the finance team. And then the last thing I wanted to just give you a quick update on was, I think I mentioned at a previous meeting that we had a high school intern working with us over a 6-week period. And Teddy Giray is a senior in the honors program at Foxboro High. And because he was involved in AP classes, he was able to do what's called a senior project, be released from school and be involved in an internship. He wanted his internship to be here at Town Hall. So he worked with myself, with Marc Craig, and with Kate Levesque, our HR specialist. And in what started out to be 3 capacities ended up being 5 different capacities in municipal government. Now, I will share with you that Teddy is a very bright young man. We normally don't take on high school students. In fact, we usually target graduate students who've already made the decision of what they're going to do later on in life. So Teddy has been accepted at one of the schools, and where he's decided to go is UMass Boston to study biochemistry. And so I accepted him on as an intern and said, my goal is to introduce you to municipal government with the hope that sometime if you should have a career change or maybe even rethink what you're going to do after getting your biochemistry degree, is that you'll think of local government, because we're always working on building capacity with highly productive and highly intelligent people. So I just wanted to share with you part of a letter that he addressed to Kate, Marc, and myself, and I received this afternoon. And I'll just read one part. And it says, I enjoyed working here. I felt like I was able to discover new interests that I otherwise would not have been able to while interning at Town Hall. For example, meetings are much more engaging than I was expecting at first. Both the department head meeting and the HR meeting I found very interesting. And even though I did not enter this internship with the intention of pursuing a career in local government, that has changed. The curiosity that triggered me to seek out Town Hall as my place to do senior project ended up leading me to a whole new path that I may choose later on in life. This has been an amazing experience, and he had a lot more to say, but that's why we do internships, to get people to take a look and have interest. So thanks, Marc, for the leadership you provided him, and I shared this letter earlier with Kate. So that's all I have for this evening, unless you have any questions for me.
No, Bill?
Right, so I am going to start off with a fond and important farewell to a now retired department head. Debbie Giordano has, we talked about the new organization earlier tonight, but I wanted to just bid her a proper farewell and say that Debbie Giordano has retired from the Recreation Department after serving the town for 22 years. Debbie started out as a camp counselor and later became the part-time program director at a time when recreation programs were only offered during a 1 8-week summer program. Over the years, Debbie has led the department while the program has evolved into a year-round program offering families and residents of all ages. Recreation now serves thousands of residents throughout the year and offers hundreds of programs. Deborah was instrumental in acquiring and developing the Mill Street Recreation Complex and helped plan the Payson Road Recreation Complex and the Foxboro Skate Park, among other things. Debbie is a true Foxboro townie in the most positive sense of the phrase. Her passion and love for Foxboro is unrivaled. Her dedication and institutional knowledge of Foxboro recreation programs will be sorely missed. We wish her well and all the best, good health, and happiness as she now enters this new chapter of her life. And I did have the fortune of running into Deb this past week as she was enjoying her retirement and having breakfast over at the Commons. So she didn't even stray far from the town. She's still having breakfast locally. So congratulations to her, and and really want to wish her all the best in the next chapter of her life. Well, I suspect we're still going to see her around, because I understand she'll be helping out in some different ways, particularly, and Marc, you can confirm this, but she's going to be working, I believe, at the farmers market, right?
She's going to be helping at the farmers market every week this summer.
So, which would be great. So, I'm going to keep her around. It's too hard to lose good people when we have them right here under our nose. So,
Yeah, I think every kid from 4 to 40 in town probably knows who Mrs. G is, or Deb G. So, and seeing so many events tonight that she's, started or led, from the farmer's market to the fishing derby to, picnic tables on the common. It's just a good night to announce that and to congratulate her.
all right, congratulations to her. I did a couple.
One thing about Deb as well. She's, I'm speaking personally, so of course, my daughter went through the rec programs, loved every bit of it, ended up working with Deb, helping her with, her career choice. But I just want to say that not only did Deb do what she had to do, like on the clock, anytime Ryan needed a recommendation, whether it was for National Honor Society, Deb wrote a recommendation for her to become an RA at Worcester State. And, not just Ryan. I mean, number of kids, they've always reached back to her. And that's her personal time, too, that she sits down and writes recommendations for these kids and anything they need. She's always gone above and beyond. And, reiterating what Bill said, wish her a well-deserved retirement.
Thank you. So I wanted to do a couple follow-ups on, this past weekend, we had one of the biggest concerts ever held here in Foxboro was the Garth Brooks Show, which was actually a 2-night event, which has occurred on Friday night, which was the smallest show, and then a much larger show occurred on Saturday night. By and large, the events went really, really well. I mean, and I can tell you that the public safety team and working with the craft group and managed to pull off an extraordinary event here in Foxboro. That crowd for the show on Saturday was the second largest show ever held here in Foxboro, rivaled only by the U2 show, which was 72,000. This was about 70,000 on Saturday night. With a large crowd like that does come with some challenges, and that was traffic was a challenge at times, as well as trying to deal with the hot weather that day was also a concern. But I can say that the medical side of things went actually very, very well. We didn't have a lot of arrests, which was also good to be able to report. A major event like that, that years ago that was a big concern. It's really not as much of a concern now. People do manage to stay within their lanes at these events, and we're really glad to see that. So with that said, we did run into a pretty significant traffic delay, which actually slowed the start of the show on Saturday night because of the traffic delays. But there was some reasoning for that, and some of it was the fact that we've gone to the Gillette Stadium has gone to a new way of cashless system of bringing cars into the parking lots, which did delay it, but not by a significant margin. What really was the big concern at this one was the demographic of the crowd was such that it was an older crowd. It was probably in the 40 to 60-year-old range, by and large, and which meant that they didn't really tailgate as much as one would have thought on a nice warm day.
As much as the Kenny Chesney fans?
Yeah, many of the Chesney fans, which, by the way, that crowd is getting older too. But and so those events are not as crazy as they used to be at one time. But I do think that because the crowd was older, they chose not to be in the sun all day and came later, which meant that between 5 and 8 o'clock, the traffic was extreme. And there's only so many ways you can get into Gillette Stadium, right? So
I was in that traffic.
You were in that traffic. So I
I
actually was part of it myself at one point. But so I did see it and I did witness it firsthand. But that was part of the reasoning that went into that. I do think that more and more planning is going to continue to go on because of that. You don't get many shows like that. And the one comparison that was made to that was the Tampa Bay Patriots game this past year, which was pretty close to that number, was about 68,000, I think, 67,000 that were in attendance at that game. And so that pretty close in terms of the numbers for this event. And generally speaking, that crowd came in significantly earlier than this show, and as a result, you saw the crowd just sort of congeal in one area of coming into the stadium itself. So it did pose some challenges traffic-wise, but glad to say that there was that it did get resolved, and the show did go off about 20 minutes later than normal than was scheduled to do, but it did pass. It did perform and was done on time, so it wasn't any issue with that. Getting out was a challenge, I think, but that's always a challenge, getting out of there at that time, because everybody leaves at the same time. And leaving doesn't stop you as much because you're not waiting to pay, you're just driving, trying to get out.
Yeah.
So I'll let.
It took me 2.5 hours to get to my grandson's soccer game in Medfield back to Foxboro. I mean, give you an idea.
Yeah, no, so we definitely got some calls. I wanted all the residents to know it didn't go unnoticed. We were on the phone Sunday, with police chief, fire chief.
Yeah.
We have heard back from the craft group about, what caused it. I think also there was almost 1,800 more cars that they said passed through.
Right.
Than that highest Tampa Bay game. So it was kind of a perfect storm of people arriving late, not tailgating, more cars, credit cards. So everyone's debriefed and certainly looking into it, and also ways too. I think we talked about, we need to make sure that the apps, the traffic apps, I believe Xfinity said it, I forget where I was, that someone mentioned that the police can actually work with them to shut off the shortcutting through the town roads, and how can we further do that if we're not doing it already? And
that is something that's the craft group is already pursuing to see if in fact that can be done to keep the traffic on the main highways as opposed to trying to do shortcuts, which further hampers the traffic as it is.
The only question I had, because I live in that area and I see it all the time, every event, is it seemed like there was less manpower than usual.
Okay.
Usually there's a lot more bodies out there, and it just seemed that.
That's a challenge for everyone right now, is nobody's been able to get, full staff on any of these events, even though we were able to get a full complement of public safety people there, which was good. Though I do think that, you've got situations where traffic attendants or parking attendants, it's hard to get people to do that work, in this environment, in this work environment. So that's a challenge for everybody.
And another interesting thing I found that the craft group reported to was there seemed to be reluctance or less people that wanted to park on the opposite side of Route 1, like everyone wanted to park on the stadium side.
Right.
So they were having trouble getting traffic to kind of,
Yeah,
maybe it was the heat, people didn't want to walk, I don't know, but that was kind of another just nugget of information that came along as well.
Probably an older crowd that, you're right, didn't want
Yeah.
to walk as far.
Yeah,
Right.
and
And
it
it
was,
was-
95 degrees.
It was a hot day, so clearly that played into it. So, again, they continuously work on that. Our public safety team works with them on trying to find new ways. The state police were involved, and they're a challenge getting everybody out to their events too, because they had other things going on. They had trouble up on the South Shore with some beach problems during that same weekend. So, they were being pulled in different directions too. So it's a challenge having an event of that size, but it doesn't happen all the time. It was to the extent that we could plan for it. The routes were planned well. The traffic route was planned well. What we couldn't control was the demographic trying to all congeal at the same time to try and get to the stadium at the same time.
Yeah, and sound seemed manageable. It was obviously Scott's first concert here. He's the one that does that decibel checking. I did personally get a complaint from someone who lives in a town that doesn't even touch us, saying how loud the sound was. I know I stepped outside of my house Friday night. I couldn't hear anything. My sister actually lives on Camp Road. The stadium's almost in her backyard. And she said unless she stepped outside, she couldn't hear it. It wasn't, bothering her children sleeping or anything. So I think in town, I didn't hear much complaints about the sound, but just, wanted to let you guys know that I did talk to Scott about one complaint I did get, but it was from pretty far.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything, and I'm very
Yeah,
close.
you're probably the closest one of all of us.
So I do think noise probably was more of a problem on Friday night than it was Saturday, because what happens is that when you have a relatively empty stadium, the sound echoes out of the stadium, but you had a full stadium on Saturday night, so it tends to absorb the sound. And, also when it's humid, the sound does carry out of the stadium a little bit more. So you do have those, there are weather factors in terms of what comes into that. But I do think that, unfortunately, because Friday more or less served as almost like a sound check or rehearsal for the main show, which was on Saturday night. So even though the performance probably was being played at the same level as being played on Saturday night, it still probably echoed a little bit more out of the stadium under those conditions.
Yeah. But overall, I didn't hear any noise in town about the noise.
No.
So.
No, we didn't get a lot of complaints.
Something, I actually pulled out of the Red Wing parking lot at 9:30 on Friday night, and I went North Street, went right around the whole way, because I was curious. Ryan and I were both in the car, and she was driving. I put the window down. I couldn't hear anything as I drove by the back access road. I mean, I was surprised. So, and that was Friday night, where Bill said it would have traveled maybe a little bit more. I didn't hear anything, and that was full. He was on at that point. That was should have been full concert mode about 9:30. So
yeah, it's
driving right behind the stadium, I didn't hear a word.
It's a strange phenomenon because sometimes people that are living right next to it won't hear it, but yet people in Medfield will hear it, which is
it
very
was Friday
strange.
night. I heard from someone in
So, someone said sometimes if the wind blows a certain way.
That's why you
and
get.
the north end
the
zone
sound.
gone too,
Right,
so didn't know if that had an impact. So
Just a,
It's like 2 towns, 3 towns away.
yeah.
So just a few other things while I have everybody. We did a Norfolk County Managers meeting as well as a meeting with the seniors this past week up at Semrick. Marc had a crew of about 14 or 15 people that came up and saw it for the first time. We were very, very impressed by it. So much so that they want to bring another crew that want to see it. So they had not really realized how impressive the facility is. And then we also had the Norfolk County Managers meeting there, which they also equally were as impressed and wanted, actually some of them are taking interest in possibly joining. So that's even a nice outflow of that. We also had, during the weekend, we had a power outage, which occurred on Sunday, which was obviously during a warm part of the day, which lasted for quite some time. And part of it was because it was an underground outage. It was diagnosed as a repair need at about 11 o'clock in the morning, but then the repair itself didn't actually get completed until about 7 o'clock that night because it was an underground repair job that did require some excavation in some cases and some significant repair work. Sunday's not a great day, of course, to get people out because you've got people off on weekends, and then they did what they could to get people there as soon as they could. That said, we did follow up with further requests for analysis from National Grid. We're working on that right now to see if we can get some more information out of them from their engineering team to see if further repairs are planned or what the history of that particular area is. And at this point, we'll continue to try to keep the board informed about that. But I'm told, based upon some of the preliminary indications, that this was about, during a 10-year span, there's only been about 4 interruptions in service in that particular area. 2 are weather-related, and 1 was animal-related, and the other one was which just recently happened, which was an actual failure in the ground itself, of the system itself. So that wouldn't connotate a need necessarily for a major overhaul of that system, given that history. So we'll continue to keep an eye on it, and we'll let you know more if we hear more of it. And then, I don't know, Madam Chair, we're going to mention the new trains, the train service?
Yeah, I'm
coming
going to
in?
mention that.
Okay, then I'll defer to you on that.
But if you can mention the training on the engineers I asked you to look into.
The training, yes. Okay, so there was reports that there was a train, a passenger train being seen on the Foxboro line that actually went past the station into Foxboro, and that is true, but it was not because we're expanding service from the station into Foxboro. What happens is that they're required to do training annually with the conductors, where they have, if in the event of an emergency, where they do have to run from that point into Mansfield because there's a breakage in the line, or if there's a block on the line, they do have to move the trains in that direction. They will actually take the trains down there on a practice run to see if to make sure the conductors are aware of that and know how to run through that area. So they're required to do that every year. It's a certification that's required of those train conductors. I did speak directly with the director of operations for the MBTA, and he's assured me that that was all that was, and that there still are no plans to.
And if we can get a
to
heads
extend
up
that.
next time before that, because it throws people off when you see the commuter train
We
coming
see a
through
train,
the center of town, you
I
know?
was walking the neighborhood when
Yeah,
I
you
saw it, and I
know.
was like, what's that all about?
So I think, you know, I asked Bill if we can ask them next time, it's helpful if we
Yeah,
can get
it's,
some kind of heads
I
up.
don't know how successful I'll be in that, getting
Right,
that,
but it's our way,
but at
you
least,
know.
but I did let him know. I said we were a bit surprised by that when we saw it. But he is a very responsive
Yeah.
gentleman, so I did want to give him credit for at least giving that information to us. So I'll defer to you for the rest of it, though.
All right, great. So continuing on the trains, the MBTA service is back in Foxboro. Unfortunately, the schedule is pretty limited, so we hope to see that expand. It can get you into Boston about 11:15, but you got to be ready to leave by about 2:45 if you want to come back out. So,
It's just the initial train.
yeah, so just know that it's coming back to Patriot Place, but the schedule is a little bit limited, and we hope to see that more, but just,
So there is a bigger schedule planned for after Labor Day, and we're a more expansive one, which is one we used to saw in before COVID, and then but this is just sort of getting the service back in motion. So you'll see the actual pilot program being evaluated again in the fall of this year. That's the plan.
all right, great. We still have about 10 motions with roll calls after this, so I'll keep it brief. I did want to just congratulate the class of 2022 seniors on their last day of school. It's always so great when that parade, and they do graduate on June 5th, so just wanted to make sure I recognized, you know, the parents, the seniors, the staff at all the schools that got them through, so congratulations. And then the last thing I had was just to vote to finalize the 2023 meeting schedule. Before we go into the meeting schedule motion, does anyone have anything else? Oh, one more thing, sorry, I do. We are going to meet 15 minutes early next meeting for executive session. Any concerns with that? Just to do some housekeeping and executive session meeting minutes. Okay. I think we're ready for our motion on.
You do want to do old business to finalize the 23 meetings?
Yep, that's the motion, yep.
Okay,
That's what I'm
great.
asking.
That's right.
Motion to approve the FY23 meeting schedule as proposed.
Second.
All right, and just to remind everyone, that does continue us on our regular every other Tuesday, the only exception being we're moving to one meeting in July and August. If we have to move any, we can. We have any additional meetings. And then we're moving a third meeting from January, right after the holidays, so. Any other discussion, questions, concerns? All right,
Mark, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Leah, yes.
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
All right, great, and then we have a long list of action items that we will have to take a roll call for each one.
This is where you make all your money.
Okay,
Yeah, this is showtime.
This is it, huh? And I'll just keep going. Okay, first is motion to approve the installation of approximately 35 feet of 2 to 5 inch conduits at 2 locations across Elm Street in the vicinity of the substation at 63 Elm Street from the northwest side of the road to the southeast side of the road towards pole 24 and pole 23.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, roll call.
Mark, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Leah, yes.
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Keep going.
Yep.
Motion to accept a donation of 8 trail cameras with a $280 value from Bass Pro Shops to the Recreation Department.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mark, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Leah, yes.
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Okay, moving right along. Motion to accept a $50,000 gift from the estate of Richard McGrain to the Boyden Library to purchase paper books.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mark, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Leah, yes.
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Clearly a huge donation.
Big
Oh,
donation,
huge.
yes.
That was
And with-
With a lot of
impressive.
paperbacks.
Accepted with
A lot of
gratefulness.
books.
With a lot of gratitude.
Okay, motion to accept the $750 donation from the Foxboro Garden Club to be used for plantings and beautification of the library grounds.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mark, yes?
Dennis, yes?
Leah, yes?
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Okay, motion to accept a $200 donation from the Hockomock Kennel Club to the Police Department K-9 Fund.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mark, yes?
Dennis, yes?
Leah, yes?
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Motion to accept a $150 donation from Mary and Vincent Forte in appreciation for paramedic/ambulance services provided.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mark, yes?
Dennis, yes?
Leah, yes?
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Motion to approve 32 commercial parking permit renewals to expire 6/30/2023.
Second.
All right, under further discussion, any changes from last year? I know that there's a long list here, but anyone that did not renew or anything to call out?
There were.
I believe there were 2 extra, last year was 30, this year is 32.
Okay.
There's a breakdown in that list, and if you have any further questions, Katie will be available to answer those tomorrow.
All right, roll call.
Mark, yes?
Dennis, yes?
Leah, yes?
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Motion to approve a block party application for 5 Howard Avenue on June 11th from 12 PM to 11 PM.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mark, yes?
Dennis, yes?
Leah, yes?
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
I'm going to separate those. Yes.
Yeah, this next one will be 2 motions.
2 motions, right. So the motion to approve the April 12th, 2022 Board of Selectmen meeting minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mark, yes?
Dennis, yes?
Leah, yes?
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
Okay, and motion to approve the April 26th, 2022 Board of Selectmen meeting minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion or comments?
So Dennis, I wasn't here for that, right?
You can still approve the minutes, though.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't here, I read them.
Yeah, and I did have like one piece of feedback I sent to Christina. She corrected it on one of them, so.
Okay.
You can still vote, though.
Yeah.
Or you can choose not to.
Mark, yes?
Dennis, yes?
Leah, yes?
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
All right, and then the last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
What's the point?
Roll
One.
call.
Mark, yes?
Dennis, yes?
Leah, yes?
Seth, yes.
Stephanie, yes.
All right, thanks. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night, guys.
Good night, everyone.
That's good.
Good job. Sorry to throw you off on that first motion there.
Yeah, sorry about that. I thought you knew. I thought